And we're live with our 141st episode of Absolute AppSec. I'm Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on Twitter, joined by my co-host Seth Law at Seth Law on Twitter and at Seth Law in my heart. Seth, say hi.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to give you a nice, I can't even do it. I'm bad. Welcome back to another episode. Ken and I are going to rip on XSS today and talk about all the things. I've been told there's certain topics that are off limits today, so we won't be talking about those. Hit us up on Twitter if you want to know more. But as far as announcements go, we still do have a couple of seats for the Black Hat next level code
hunting
thing. Next level bug hunting. Yeah, code edition. There you go. That's it. Which is the Black Hat version of Seth and Ken's Excellent Adventures in Secure Code Review. Please sign up if you are interested. If you need more information, reach out to us about it. Outside of that, I will be at DEF CON. I don't know if Ken, is GitHub doing any event or anything like that this year? Or is that all off the table too?
No event this year. But there will be people there, but they're just going for their own learning and networking. So not a whole lot of involvement this year, obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. We're trying to get back to doing live hacking events. So through HackerOne, that's our bug bounty platform. So I think you'll see. And we recently built out an entire team to manage our bounty program to improve it. So I think you'll see some additional live hacking events in the next year beyond just the one we did every year in Vegas. So stay tuned. Cool. That should be pretty cool. I'm excited about that, and especially to have people dedicated full time to the bounty program. That's a big one. We've traditionally done it as sort of a part of a first responder rotation, right? Which means, you're dealing with, triaging bounty submissions, but you've got everywhere from like ping on looking at a PR to like a pull request to like, hey, looking for some advice on something, or who do I talk to about that? So it's a very split focus. Whereas with a dedicated team, I feel like there's a lot more room to grow that program. So anyways, I'm just excited about that. Like, to see it actually flourish.
Yeah. It's kind of the evolution of those programs, right? I know some of the companies that I help out with it, right? Like you can tell that that's the direction that it's got to go eventually. As more researchers come on board, more people become more involved. Like they have more apps. I mean, you guys are pretty large in comparison to most of the small startups that I deal with. And so depending on their size, they may or may not need a full-time person, but I can definitely see the amount of code that you guys churn out and generate and the number of apps. It's probably a good idea.
Yeah. And, it's like assets that get pushed that which we're going to talk about that today, some asset discovery, but and show a tool. But so like it's cool. It's you basically get a lot of submissions about some stuff about applications and a lot about like secure code related stuff or web security. But then you get like a lot of other stuff that it's just could be like dangling domains, could be some like S3 buckets, could be whatever. You never know what's going to come through. I think the main thing is just the external communication with researchers. That's like the improved area of focus, right? Like that's an area we want to improve in, I should say, an area of focus. So I'm excited to like just have more engagement with the community overall and have people doing that full time. So
cool.
Yeah. And you kind of need that. Like if you want to be competitive and you're a large, like you said, it's different. People know their audience, right? Most of the time, like good researchers. So if you're a startup, they understand your constraints. If you're a large business or you're owned by Microsoft, there's less like, okay, they took a little while to get back to me. They're just scrappy startup. We're not a scrappy startup. No one's. They're going to hold your feet to the fire a little bit more. So, And that's good. They should. So
yeah, rightfully so. Right.
right.
You've got dedicated security staff as opposed to, hey, there's this one developer that does some security stuff at most startups, or there's, as sad as that is, right? That's typically how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, one thing I can say is if you do if you can avoid using a service to be your first level triage, that's great. Like, I think that's great because they're never gonna do it. They're never gonna respond to people the same way you would, right? Not in the exact same way. Not with the carefully handcrafted, artisanally generated responses that a good team's gonna put out there. So
artisanal responses. Wow. That's going to go on my next, bug bounty management proposal. Artisanally handcrafted research responses.
Yeah.
Look, bud. No.
Yeah.
Duplicate. Yeah. No, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm sure these platforms have some good folks responding, but again, I don't think, I don't know about you, but I like to, if I want to do something really well, I want to have not necessarily me, but our team being the ones that actually handle the responses and manage the communication. So anyways, I'm just excited. I'm excited because we've got people dedicated to it, a whole team. It's going to grow. It's going to get better. And I'm just super pumped for that. So starting this week off with a happy tone.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's good. At least somebody is, right? Outside of that, though, we're going to talk about our favorite vulnerability, also known as XSS, because it's one that's really interesting, and we haven't seen any research done on XSS in years, right? No one's actually spent any time on it, and
For those who can't,
I'm a little sarcastic today, apparently, right? I did see this, and it is novel. Okay, so let's just post it in there, right? It's coming out of portswigger, right? So
for some reason, Slack is going super slow for me to put it up in our Slack channel. I'll put it on the YouTube comments as well. So this is a change that Chrome is introducing for cross-domain iframes. If you're not familiar with, I assume if you're watching this podcast, you're familiar with iframes, and just consider an iframe that pulls in another domain. Right. So what they're disallowing now is alert boxes in those iframes. It can be a little bit difficult to actually validate. So let's back up. What's the number one way, Seth, that people validate their XSS payloads?
Script alert one, close script, right? That's basically it. It is the popping up an alert box with the number 1 or any number is pretty standard. And honestly, in trainings, this is what I've recommended as well, because it stops execution on the page. It's easily searchable in the HTML source. It's a very easy way to see whether or not a page is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. And so, it's the or 1 = 1 of cross-site scripting, if we're referring to SQL injection attacks, right? It's the way that we confirm that it exists. And that's kind of the issue that we have here, is they're blocking it. I get Chrome's move here because it's always been confusing, right? You throw up an alert box and you're not quite sure where it's coming from, and there's some confusion to the user and to the developers when you use that functionality inside of an iframe. So I get it. Or across domains, I guess I should say. So I get them blocking it. But like anything with cross-site scripting, it takes, all of 10 minutes and somebody finds a workaround, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No. It's so I guess, one of the impetus for this is that malicious advertisers utilize the fact that, an alert dialogue, going back to just the basics of an alert dialogue, when done, it can look exactly like a prompt from the browser, like a browser generated prompt. So if you if you muck around with the JavaScript enough to make it look like convincing, you can get people, you can essentially social engineer people, get them to click on things and potentially serve them malware or do malicious things or steal credentials, whatever it might be, right? So their thought was, hey, let's like disable that for cross-domain iframes. Doesn't make sense. Get it. I totally get it. Kills off a bit of testing though, makes it pretty hard. They discuss like alternatives, like out of band, or what is it called? It's like OATP. Actually, let me go back. I forget the actual term, but it's essentially like doing things out of
OAST.
band, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, OAST. Sorry, whatever. What does that stand for again? I can't even. Out of band application security testing. Okay, cool. Because we don't have enough acronyms. Man, I'm getting too old to remember all these acronyms. Seriously, like I need a cheat sheet of acronyms at this point. Just seen too many acronyms. But anyways, so one of the ways that they do this is like when you fuzz parameters to see if, like, for instance, you can perform, say, a request out to like a server you own. I think this is sort of like what you see with the portswiggers. Their
collaborator.
Collaborator server. You can even stand up your own collaborator server, and like you can have DNS queries go out to it. You can have like straight up HTTP requests out. You can do. I think there's some other things that it allows for. I don't really remember off the top of my head. But anyways, so this is sort of, I guess, one way that you could try to like get around this whole alert box testing. I don't know that would be the most valuable way to do it. Now, obviously, they didn't think that was the case either. So, and also not like the easiest way. So, it says console.log wasn't an option. Because they're proxied or disabled by JavaScript obfuscators. What was the other? There was another one they tried. In any case, they went with the easiest, which is correct. So that actually is funny because it's actually, hold on, show a screenshot of this just so people can see. Yeah, you should be able to see that here in a second.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's literally like the print dialog for like a printer, right? So kind of cool, like a good way to prove out what you're doing. I think that's kind of cool. But it's really more so. I think what's awesome about this is the fact that they like shared that this is happening, right? This is happening in Chrome, because we all need to be aware of it. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I mean, I know both of us have talked about this in previous episodes. It's getting super hard to get excited about cross-site scripting after umpteen years of dealing with it. And it doesn't mean that there's not some cool research that goes on. I mean, obviously, James Kettle, portswigger guys has spent a lot of time digging through these different things, and like they are doing some interesting research in that avenue. But again, a lot of it feels like almost denialist, or trying to get around a denialist or a whitelist and figure out what's there, and it's not as fundamental to the web anymore, right? Like, I know we see a lot of XSS because people make mistakes and developers make mistakes with it, but it's usually some sort of denialist bypass, right? That Google is paying out, right? Or that, I mean, I don't know, right? Do you have any statistics on? Do you have any statistics from GitHub on how many of your issues are XSS related, like bug bounty specifically?
Off the top of my head, no, but I can tell you anecdotally, like, yes, I have those statistics, but not like on me.
Not right here. Yeah.
I can, if they're interested, and I can make sure that it's okay to share that. I'm happy to do so. But anecdotally, I can definitely share that the one that we see, I think, the most, and it's specific to us, mainly because of how much we do with Markdown, right? And not just Markdown, but like hosting, say, an SVG file, or there's various ways to introduce XSS. Like, but so the one we see come across the most is, since you put actual like a JavaScript XSS style payload in there, let me do another one. So actually, we see this one. It doesn't bypass CSP. We've got a very strong CSP, but the JavaScript :alert one, that's the one that we see in terms of proof of concepts. I think that's the type that is most prevalent. And honestly, a lot of that comes down to two factors. One, probably the biggest factor is just that, and this is something I think like it's just interesting in general. The difference between URI parsing and URL parsing, right? This has bitten a lot of people in the tail before. They don't really know like what. It's not always. Okay, so let's back up to what a URI is versus a URL, right? A URI could be something like for mail, for FTP, like in terms of the schema, right? Because that says JavaScript : that schema, JavaScript is the schema, right? So the schema could be anything. It could be like a mail, it could be FTP, it could be SSH, it could be whatever, right? HTTP, and that's where it gets a little weird, is because when people use URI parsing libraries, if you don't validate that scheme, then you can run into these issues. Meaning, like if you're expecting that scheme to only be HTTP or HTTPS, that can be an issue. And this can lead to like JavaScript, say, in the scheme, and then lead to like XSS, right? So if you're doing some URI parsing of a URI string and expecting it to only have HTTP or HTTPS, and you're not factoring in that there could be other things placed in there, and that the URI parsing library would be like, yeah, that makes sense. This is a valid URI schema, and not just schema, but like format, including the schema, because the URI consists of quite a few parts. It's got the schema, it's got the domain, it's got the ports, it's got the path, it's got its query params. So, anyways, I think this is like why you see it. I see it anyways being fairly prevalent, is just because of that, like that little change in the way that you look at or you think about how the URI parsing library is going to work. Whereas a URL is like, pretty specific to the web, specifically to the web, right? So there is a difference there, and I don't know if it's always appreciated. And when you deal with Markdown a lot, man, it is. And then, you're talking about Markdown not just in one place, but in many services, right? So it's just always interesting to try and do that without introducing security flaws.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, these types of injection flaws, right? Because that's really what it is, are still very prevalent. Anytime we introduce a new technology, schemas get really interesting as well on like mobile clients, because you could do custom schemas, right? To open up an application, right? And it's an attack surface that we end up dealing with on the mobile side of things that isn't super well known, right? Mobile developers understand that it's there, but most of the time it's not something that they consider to be user controllable, even though that it is. Anyway, we're going off on a huge tangent, but that's interesting that that's the one that you see because of the CSPs. And then it's also a self-XSS almost, because it's not, I don't know if it's something that you could share across to other people and actually take advantage of or not, right? It's going to take some jumping through some additional hoops with a CSP in place to actually execute a full-on style attack using cross-site scripting alone. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to show you. Yeah, actually, just so that people have a visual. Once again, I'm going to share my screen here. Just so that, like, oh man, that's huge. Hold on. Let me kind of clear all this out, and let's just start from the beginning. So like, I'll create a U object that represents URI.parse of that JavaScript alert one value. Yep. And then we'll just do, and you could see, by the way, like, obviously I'm talking to the people watching, but they can see like there's methods associated with this U object. So I can like we were talking about the scheme, for instance, all the schemes considered JavaScript. It, could be like I said before, it could be like mail here or something along those lines, whatever it might be, right? But anyways, so going back to it, actually I don't need that again. Let's see. So yeah, we could look at like the path, it's probably nil. Yeah. Host name, nil. Yeah. So but however, if you were doing something like u equals URI.parse, and then you did like u dot host name, it would show, absolute AppSec.com. The URI library part, the URI is like, because the URI actual RFC specs are they're all encompassing of so many different protocols and so many different types of formats. It's just super flexible. And again, like that in and of itself can lead to, unintentional, like you said, it's just an injection issue, right? It's like a whack. It's similar to like what you were saying too. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. So anyways, I just figured it'd be maybe useful to show people what that looks like.
Yeah. And if you're interested too, right, there's a whole spec on URIs. Wikipedia's entry on it is pretty good. I'll throw those in there too. And I know we're kind of going off topic, but it is an interesting.
Well, hold on. What topic?
I don't know.
What is the topic?
Cross-site scripting. That's the topic.
Yeah. Like what topic are we even? Yeah, there's no path, people. None of this is planned. It's just off the cuff.
But these are super important, right? Like I know you and I are, yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen some sort of scheme abuse, either through a web app? I mean, honestly, this is very common in server-side request forgery attacks. You're abusing URIs and what the targeted. I mean, I don't know, like the victim is, whether that's a user in the case of cross-site scripting or the server in the case of SSRF. You can abuse those URI schemes to get access to stuff, whether that's FTP, whether that's S3 buckets, whether that's like, there's all sorts of security implications that go along with these URI schemes. And if you're not familiar with them, you should be. And like I said, mobile's another aspect here because you can do custom ones and you can actually enumerate what apps are available on a phone based on the schemes that it responds to. And so there's all sorts of, fun things that you can play with here if you've never looked at it.
Yeah, I bet if you were to pull apart, like, I don't know, not necessarily like well vetted security centric libraries, but more just like packages or libraries that use URI for some sort of productivity, I would imagine you'd probably uncover, if you did this on a large scale, you'd probably uncover lots of injection issues just because of that misunderstanding of like, or maybe just like not thinking about the fact that there's other things that can be included in these formats. And it's the RFC specs. So anyways, thought it was interesting. Yeah. Pretty cool. And it's good to know that that change is coming out. This came out last week. It looks like, I think, about a week ago. And that's coming out in Chrome 92, I believe. Let's look here. So once Chrome 92 lands on the 20th of July. Okay. So in 1 week, this time next week. They're going to be a disabling alert for cross-domain iframes. So
that doesn't mean that you still can't use alert because the traditional methods are still going to work. It's just the cross-domain within an iframe. It's a very kind of specific use case that James is looking at here. But having a workaround is always useful. I mean, print's going to work wherever.
I wonder if because Burp has Chrome built into it, right? Like you have that option now in the proxy tab. Yep. So I'm wondering if they wouldn't disable the disable flag. I don't even know that's possible.
Disable the disable.
Well, actually, probably to do the right thing, they're probably disable the disable. But I probably to do the right thing. My guess is they're keeping it up to date and not like doing any modifications. And probably that's my guess anyways. Probably the only modification would be like the proxy settings specifically, I would imagine. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a more custom version of Chromium built into Burp, and they could do something there. I don't know. I don't know if they'd want to. If it'd be worth it.
I don't know. I was just checking out the portswigger's cross-site scripting cheat sheet, right? That has like all of the different functions and some payloads in there. They haven't completely converted it over to print, but they have added quite a few like print payloads now. And I don't know if that's just after the fact, but before they were using alert pretty much everywhere. And I think they've changed that up. So anyway.
Oh yeah, they did change that. All that. You're right. They changed all that around just for this reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a more consistent. Yeah.
I tried to. I think especially if you're a researcher, it makes sense to just like keep communication with the actual folks building the browser specs. This like the security team of these browser vendors. It just makes a lot of sense to, especially like I said, if you're a researcher, to pay pretty good attention to what's going on there. So so I don't know. Anything else? Cool. I guess we could talk about something else if you want to move on. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
we've got a few things.
Yeah, next step before we jump into the demo and we talk about Amass for a little bit, let's talk about your mothership acquiring RiskIQ. Right.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, like good for RiskIQ. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I got a couple articles I'll post. This just happened. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Right. It's been pretty. I mean, RiskIQ, like their tech or their actual value add is the combination of vulnerability data, right, with like threat intelligence is what they call it, right? But the ability to actually combine threat of specific products with what's going on in the world. I mean, it's a pretty huge acquisition, and I mean, good on them, right? But it's big.
I've never used the tool, but I like the idea of like, for one, getting a handle on like what assets you have. We've talked about this a bunch. Like your digital footprint, it changes, it gets updated, and you may not always know what you've got out there. So that's kind of cool that they help with basically aggregate. It seems like they aggregate a bunch of data, whether it's your vulnerability data, whether it's your external footprint. But I'm curious, like the motivation,
Yeah. Well, and that's the question that I've got with it too, is it's great to have a sponsor. I mean, GitHub and Microsoft, right? That one made a lot of sense to me just from a code perspective, developer perspective. I know Microsoft is pushing into the security space more and more, and they're concerned about security. Them saying they're going to introduce RiskIQ data into their products. I'm interested to see what that actually looks like. I mean, is that from the Azure cloud side of things? Is it something consumers are going to be able to take advantage of, or us as security professionals? I've got a bunch of questions on it, and I'm sure they're really concerned about me knowing and understanding because I'm their key demographic there. But it's going to be interesting to watch and keep an eye on.
No, I'm interested too, and the funny thing is, like, you just see so many big companies now just trying to tackle the security space, and it's just funny how quickly it feels like it went from us begging people to pay attention to security to like the biggest tech powerhouses in the world, arguably, being like, "Hey, this is a real problem. This is really something we want to solve." And it's like, I don't know, it makes me happy. It's very positive. It's very cool to see, to see. But I can't even, I'll be honest with you, this is one I've struggled to see how that's going to, I know they have a plan clearly, but like, what is it? And like, I'm speculating so much. I'm like, how's this going to play out? Like when Semel joined GitHub, that was very clear to me on like how that would work roughly,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But I have no idea with like what. Yeah, I just don't know. So,
well, and that's the interesting thing, right? Is RiskIQ was acquired by Microsoft, right? Not necessarily GitHub or one of the other subsidiaries. So obviously, they're looking at it from a higher level, like that threat intelligence, service to either internal orgs or external, or how that's implemented, and like what that actually represents. I mean, we know that Microsoft has done big pushes on security in the past, and we've seen that. But I don't know. There's a lot of questions for me on this as well. Right? I guess that's all I'm trying to say, is that it's cool to see, but I also hope that it doesn't just get killed off, or right, like those kind of threat intelligence services go away. Because there's quite a bit, because even because it's not just this acquisition, but it's the acquisition of Jerry's company too recently by Cisco. That, like, I don't know if I like the fact that big players are the ones that have access to all the threat intelligence services and how they feed those out. Right?
Yeah,
but that's my like tinfoil hat coming out, right?
That's the mistrust that a lot of us have from legacy events.
Events, yes.
But it's not that long ago. It's not that long ago where these same companies were like the ones we were kind of not happy about.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. So it is interesting to see this change.
Yeah. Just go back to bug disclosure, like security bug disclosure stuff back in, the early 2000s. It was an issue.
Yeah.
With a lot of these same players. Yes, they're saying the right thing. They're doing the right thing, or they seem to be doing the right thing now. But that switch can flip so quickly depending on who's in charge and what their concerns are. That's where I have heartburn on these sorts of acquisitions, because it does take away some of that flexibility. And I mean, I'll be honest, right? Even like GitHub being acquired from man. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard all sorts of things about that, but it's the same sort of tinfoil hat, right? Like, what does this really mean for me and my like code that I host out there? And are these services going to disappear? Am I going to be forced to use Microsoft products? All that kind of stuff, right?
Oh, when we got acquired, so when GitHub got acquired by Microsoft, man, I got messages from good friends even, who were like, just so you know, I'm taking all my I'm like, first of all, I don't care why would you tell me that? But like, they're like, oh, I'm taking all my stuff off of GitHub. I'm moving over to GitLab. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's one way to look at it, I guess. It's not like what, no offense, but yeah, you know what? I'll just leave it there. I'll just say no offense and leave it there. I don't think anyone's concerned. But anyways, it was weird, the response, for sure. But I get it. But see, that's the thing, is I do get it, because there's a history there. So
yep.
But I mean, like, just because there's, who are the other players in this space, right? Like, would you consider Intrigue and Asset Note to be comparable?
I don't think they have as much.
It's more limited, right?
Yeah, I don't think they have quite as much experience or like depth as RiskIQ does. Like, RiskIQ has been around a long time, and I know they serve a lot of institutions that we probably don't think of. Right. Yeah. I mean, so you start thinking like financials, especially, that I know their threat landscape and their threat tolerance is a lot different than a startup. So, some startup, RiskIQ probably isn't something that they're super concerned with, but, a large financial institution, a large bank, is going to consume that data and then make decisions based on it. Decisions about who they work with, like third-party vendors, including startups, data around, just that threat information becomes very, very valuable. And that's probably where Microsoft is looking at it.
Yeah, they show American Express as being a customer. They show
Yep.
Facebook. And they show BNP. So I mean, that's right in line with what in Box, like clearly Box would be concerned. So that's focused on threat. So Alex Lauerman, which awesome. It's good to see Alex.
Alex is right. I mean, they are more focused on threat intel, right? Asset notes more attack surface. You're right. I mean, but it is still like the sorts of scans that they're doing is risk information that they're pulling up, and it does have to do a lot with what the attack surface looks like, what the organization looks like. I mean, how often are you scanned on a daily basis if you have something out on the internet, right? I know GitHub can speak to that as far as the amount of just traffic that you get that you don't know what it's doing. And especially like this tool that you're going to show here in a little bit makes it super easy to scan. You start to tie that together with other data that's out there, including what's on the pages that are exposed, how many login pages are associated with a specific org, who is information. Like you can tie all these sources together and start to build a threat profile of a company, in addition to the threat intel that comes out of financials and other things. And it becomes super valuable, right? The more that you tie together, the better information that you have on people and on companies, the better calls that you can make from a threat perspective on whether or not you should process a transaction, right? If you think about American Express that's on their page, that's exactly what they're doing. They're using that RiskIQ feed to determine whether or not they should process a transaction. That's one of the things that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the attack surface is just one data point in determining like threats and risky. I mean, that's how you and I, when we talk about profiling an application's risk, we talk about the different data points and like, it's like, is it external facing? Is it internal facing? Does it have auth, Z or N? Does it do this? Does it do that? And like, what's the kind of data that it holds? And you ask a bunch of like, what are the framework and libraries in use and how well supported are those things? And what are they being used for? And a whole bunch of questions that you essentially a bunch of data points that you used to aggregate and then figure out riskiness. So I guess I'm just saying it's like this. Yeah, I'm just saying what you're saying, essentially in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, but Alex, you are right. They do focus more on the threat intel side than they do on the attack surface management. But I would be surprised if their internal algorithm, their secret sauce, doesn't include some sort of a check on that attack surface. So,
yeah, I'd be curious to see how this all works out.
Yeah. Yep. So keep an eye on it. We will as well, right? Like, the AppSec or the security nihilist in me is going to come out on most of that. So it's all the worst, and we're all going to die eventually. So there you go.
You think it'll be part of like their enterprise management suite, maybe?
It could be
Azure service. I don't know.
Yeah,
that wouldn't make sense to me. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, Alex, if you watch the threat intel, like speaking to his other question too, right? If you didn't see it, he asked if threat intel services are still a big thing. Just he hasn't heard much about them in a few years. I would say that they are, right? Especially from a risk perspective and a threat perspective. They just have gone dark. They don't like to be a target, I guess is what I can say. They're trying to gather their information and provide it to businesses that are willing to pay for it without exposing themselves too much and the sorts of analysis that they're doing, because that's, if somebody else can figure out what they're doing, they can replicate the algorithm that they've created to come up with these scores. But you've seen, who is it? MasterCard acquired Risk Recon. You've got RiskIQ now being acquired. You've got Kenna that's been acquired, right? These are all sorts of intel services, threat intel services that bigger companies are snapping up in order to improve their own internal intelligence services, or maybe they see a bigger play there on selling and reselling those. But if you watch the space, there's still quite a bit of activity that goes on there. Anyway.
Now I'm looking at Kenna's. Now I'm on like Kenna's website, just looking at, just out of curiosity. Yeah. That's cool.
I mean, and the thing is, right? Like Kenna is like, it's vulnerability management, but it's an intelligence service, right? It's very similar to that in that it's giving you evidence-based guidance. It's looking at vulnerabilities, telling you what you can act upon. So I know that it's not a one-to-one comparison with RiskIQ or with Asset Note, but it is that same sort of a feed that a company can use to figure out what their threat landscape looks like and to mitigate threat. So anyway, I'm kind of ranting. Sorry, Ken.
No, like I said, there's nothing's planned here. We're just off the cuff.
Off the cuff today. Yep. Well, good. Like maybe we should show people Amass then. I think you set it up to do a quick scan. Is that, do we have enough time for that?
Yeah, it took like 2 seconds too to get it like all set up and running. It was very, very easy. So let me start sharing stuff. Sorry, I gotta back out of things here. So first of all,
yep, you want to explain what it is? Let me see. I'll throw it.
Yeah, I'm finding the
share
screen here.
Yep, I'll throw the GitHub link in there for it. Amass.
Yeah, it's on GitHub. It is an OWASP project. Basically, it allows you to enumerate assets. So you can give they've got like different options. So sorry, I say enumerate. There's actually more than that. So the two main options that I played with today, as I was messing around with it this morning, were intel and enumeration. And I'll just show in a second what that looks like. But intel kind of just, you can give it like, so I could give it, say, Redpoint Securities domain. And I could find out what other domains you also own. So not subdomains, but actual other domains that you own. So it helps you kind of create a list of potential targets to then perform enumeration on, which is the second step, which again, I'll show in a second. But the enumeration step is then, again, you can give it a list, you can like a file with a list of assets. You can do this via IP, IPv6. You can give it ASNs. You can give it domain names, and basically it'll go out and find what's out there. But anyway, so yeah, this is the page. I found it very easy to just go to the releases. Hold on, let me go back. I was on
it very easy.
Yeah, very easily. Anyways, so I just went down and downloaded the Mac OS one. So anyways, here, let me stop sharing that one and go over to my terminal here and fire. So share screen. All right. So, and apologies for those that are, because I know a lot of people listen to this podcast more than they watch it. You might want to go.
We'll try and give a running commentary of what's going on, though. So,
yeah,
Ken's got a terminal screen up, and we're going to read it. CK Tricky at Ken's MVP code Amass Mac OS AMD 64K. There we go.
Seth is going to be my voice to chat or text to chat.
Text to chat, text to voice, whatever, right? Yeah.
So, like, assuming I want to just find, like, let's say, just find any additional domains. Oh, I did it wrong already. Look at this. I'm already failing. Hold on. I think I have to give it a who is. Yeah. So, sorry, I forgot to give it the who is flag. Anyways, it's going to do a bunch of searches here, and it's just going to try and see. Oh, I did github.com. Okay, well, you know what?
That's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. So, so now Seth as text to chat.
Yes, Amass Intel -D github.com -whois. There you go.
So yeah, there's some other domains here listed that we own. and or the GitHub owns. So cool. If I wanted to begin then like being like, all right, what are the other domains here? I'll just start enumerating, right? So now I've got my list of like potential attack surfaces. So I'll just start enumerating that domain, githubuniverse.com, see if there's anything else. And I don't know if like what'll come back here. Honestly, I'm like semi-horrified just that I'm going to uncover something. No, I'm kidding. We're good. But actually, there shouldn't be anything. It might be like a www.githubuniverse or something like that .com. But anyways, I just thought it'd be useful to kind of show people the tool, like roughly how to run it, what to do, and for me, like I'm always interested in like what's being accidentally exposed. I think bug bounty researchers for sure, if they're not using this tool, they're using something similar. This basically aggregates from so many different sources, and the nice thing is that it's actually well supported and updated, and because it's an OWASP project, you know, it's got some official kind of like I don't know, it's kind of got some official support. Basically what it is, versus because there's a lot of scripts on the internet to do stuff like this, and this is kind of like gluing a lot of things together. So
well, and I know Amass is in Jason Haddock's bug bounty methodology, right? Like it's one of those tools that he recommends for use if you are looking at a specific IP or a specific organization where all hands are off, right? They don't give you a domain. So anyway, go ahead.
It should be. Yeah, you're right. It should be in his methodology for sure. If you do the verbose flag, I forgot about this. If you do the verbose flag, it'll actually show you where all it's querying. So Alien Vault, Baidu, stuff like that, Yahoo. So it's kind of cool. Like it's showing you where it's actually. And the result of this one too was like, I think, oh yeah. So it's the same one you're going to see here. Sort of gives you, like I said, I didn't think there would be much else, but like www.githubuniverse.com. There's no other subdomains that detected, but it kind of shows you like where that subdomain's registered with Fastly, the ASN. I mean, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. It's what you would expect, but I don't know. Felt like it was worth sharing. It's an OWASP project. People need this kind of stuff, I think. So especially blue teamers and blue teamers and bounty researchers. So everybody needs this. So something like this. So anyways.
Yeah. See, now I'm in my own terminal window, like scanning all my different domains, right? You know, surprisingly enough, Cheetah Biscuits didn't come up with anything. So gosh,
nothing.
Foiled again.
Oh, Cheetah Biscuits.
Yes. No, I mean, any of those utilities, right? Like this is all stuff that you can script up inside of your pipeline or inside of your like daily checks. It's fairly easy to get this info back. And if you don't understand what the bug bounty researchers are doing or what the red teamers are doing, just ask, right? Like most of the time, like most of the bug bounty reports that I see always have at least the tool that's out there, right? That they've used to scan. They want to provide the evidence because they want to get paid. And there's no reason that you as a blue teamer or you as a coder couldn't do the same thing. I mean, obviously, if you're not on the security team, talk to them first, especially before you run some sort of, denial of service script against production. But in general, you can replicate a lot of the activities that are out there. Read the bug bounty hunters methodology from Jason Haddock. Understand what it is and what the approach is that they're going about, because it's very similar to what an attacker would do as well. They're going to enumerate data first, right? Like it's the same thing we do for code reviews, Ken, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's just, on a different level, it's different things that they're looking at. So
yeah.
Anyway.
I think there's not a whole lot else for us to cover on this, but like on the note of just like open source tooling and like stuff that's available, I just wanted, this is my semi-regular reminder for folks to go and sign up for Clint Gibbler's TLDR Sec newsletter.
Yes.
I don't think I got Amass from that newsletter, but I don't think I did. But anyways, I have like his last one had some interesting stuff around DOM fuzzing updates in Burp, and then like some says like there's another. Anyway, there's some good information there. That's what I'm trying to say. There was like a new tool though that he had or something that he had mentioned I hadn't seen before. So let me pull that up. That last one. But this is just your reminder. Like sign up for TLDR Sec. Clint's awesome. That newsletter is awesome. Like you are missing out if you're not subscribed to it. Actually, what's funny is like I think we've said this before, and it's definitely true for me. Sometimes he literally like sends out so much information that for me it gets hard to actually even keep up with the newsletters. Like it's so frequent. Yeah. So, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, right. Like a lot of the things that we talk about at times we're pulling stuff from the newsletters that has gone out. Like it's a good curated set of content. And speaking of which, Derek that is on our Slack has a new Discord channel that is doing some aggregation as well. That's been very interesting. Sorry, Derek, I can't exactly remember exactly what it is. Is that the one that you dropped in there? That's probably something different.
No. That's something else. That's just a playground for fuzzing, essentially for web fuzzing content. So it's like it's a playground for that. So, but again, this is something I wouldn't have seen if it wasn't for Clint's newsletter. But like, do you have the info? Yeah. So if you're Derek, if you're not around, we can put it in the show notes later or in the description of the video for like where people can sign up for your Discord server to get those up, or for your Discord channel to get updates.
Yeah.
You're searching for it, aren't you? I could tell.
I'm searching for it. Yeah. I'm looking back through. It's in our general channel in there. I know. I'm like, I know it's in here somewhere. Dang it, Derek. Yeah. And he's not on right now when we're talking about it. Of course, that's inevitable. But it's been super useful, right? He's aggregating Twitter feeds and some of the newsletter information on a daily basis. It felt very similar to what Twitter used to be, right? Before it descended to so much InfoSec drama. Get informed. There we go. Thanks, Aaron. He posted that in there. Get informed. But drop into our Slack channel if you would like to get access to that. Derek's put some effort into it, just like monitoring those different channels and pulling in interesting data from Reddit and other things. But at the very least, let's start with Clint's TLDR Sec, because there's some good stuff in there. Like we didn't even talk about DOM Invader. That was in his last one too, right?
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, like, it's so useful. Hey, I want to plug this because this is no sponsorship. So I'm doing an unpaid sponsorship plug, but GitHub had sent me, as part of like this manager thing that we were doing meetup, they sent me an Ember mug. And if you haven't heard of these mugs, like, have you heard of this, Seth?
Mm-mm.
Okay. This is okay. At first I was like, why would I want a smart mug? That's insane. We've gone too far, right? Wait. However, and there's an app for it that you install on your phone. I'm like, okay, this is gone. What are we doing?
What are we doing? Hipster. Yeah.
Yeah. But let me tell you, you tell it the exact temperature you want your coffee to stay at. And to the degree this thing keeps your coffee warm at that temperature, you could sit it down for 2 hours, as long as the battery doesn't run out. Your coffee, when you come back to it, will still be exactly the temperature you want. So this has been like the single coolest thing that I immediately had shit on when I got it. I was like, really? A smart mug? But then I used it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so. Ember mugs. I'm plugging you. We're not paid for this. I wish we were, but no, I'm kidding. But or send Seth an Ember mug if you're ever listening. But yeah, no, man, super cool.
Now I'm looking up ember.com. Dang it, Ken. Gosh.
Spoiler alert, they're not ever going to listen to this. But anyways, like, yeah.
Maybe one of their guys is, eventually. That's it. I'll put it in the show notes. We'll see. Yeah.
It's not cheap, but man, it is so cool. It's like the neatest thing to have, like consistent, temperature coffee. I don't know why, but yeah.
And we've descended to things that entertain Seth and Ken. Wow, this episode's been awesome. No, it's been good.
There could be some security bend to it. I don't know. Maybe you could burn people with like over exceeding the. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, it's pretty cool.
That's it. I'm gonna hack your Ember account and just turn it down 10 degrees.
1 degree every day.
Every day, yeah.
Till I'm just drinking cold coffee. Awesome.
That's my question. What about iced coffee? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe there's a setting for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, like if you're on the fence, it is cool. And I'm not even like that big of a coffee drinker, but it's super cool. So anyways, thought I'd mention it. It's awesome.
It could wait. It can handle other beverages too, like water or tea.
So many liquids.
Amazing. Oh, wow.
Now you're just making fun. All right.
On that note, right? Especially where you just posted a link that's fuff.me as just like,
Yeah. Titling. Phrasing
counts for something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I don't know what else. Yeah, like I'm completely gone now. That's it. TLDRSec. Sign up for our Black Hat course. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on Slack. Derek, feel free to post any links and we can share them across in show notes. And if you want swag, send us an email.
Yep.
And,
Oh, yeah, which I actually am mailing them out this week because I put together the spreadsheet. So just got to run down to the UPS store. I meant to do it last week. That's another story. I had some stuff crop up, personal errands and stuff that need to be done. Didn't get my safety inspection done on time for my truck. Anyways, whatever. So like those should be going out this week anyway. So if you want to get in on that wave, it's info@absoluteappsec.com or just absoluteappsec@gmail.com. Send an address and a t-shirt size. And like I said, that wave's going out this week. So if you want to be included in that, send that info.
Do so soon because I think these ones are, we're getting down last batch and we're going to do a new run. We'll have some new t-shirts here pretty soon. Like we've been talking about some, nice Crocs and socks and some extra swag that we're going to be putting out there. But appreciate everyone listening. We'll catch everyone online and let us know. Join the conversation when you can. So appreciate everybody's time.
Thanks. Bye.
Ciao.